Codename S.T.E.A.M was definitely a surprise announcement from the big end, with it making its triumphant entrance at a developers roundtable at E3 2014. Fans were holding out hope that Nintendo would unveil a fresh installment in the Metroid series, since we haven't seen one in a while, but nope, we instead got a brand spanking new IP from the strategic minds over at Intelligent Systems, who, if you don't know, are the same peeps who have brought us the beloved Fire Emblem and Advance Wars series. It was wonderful hearing that Nintendo was getting a new IP just like Splatoon, and the twist on the well-known turn-based combat was definitely intriguing to me. And now that Codename S.T.E.A.M is out, oh boy has it been getting mixed reactions, with some reviewers awarding it a gnarly 3.5 or 4 out of 10. But is this steampunk strategy game really all that bad? Well, after spending a near 20 hours eliminating the alien menace, I can safely say that Codename S.T.E.A.M is worth considering. Taking on the role of a brave band of warriors united under the guidance of Abraham Lincoln, yes, that Abraham Lincoln, you'll be using guns and your wits to push back the onslaught of aliens that have invaded the Earth. What's unique about S.T.E.A.M's presentation is that its cast of characters are all taken from American literature and folklore, such as the smooth-talking con artist Tom Sawyer or John Henry, the steel-driving man. It's a really interesting idea that, mixed in with comic book or steampunk aesthetics, instantaneously gives itself its own identity, and you are continuously wondering which famous characters are going to appear next, even though for some of them I had no stinking clue who they were. I guess I'm reading the wrong books. But of course, that's only the candy coating of what you're going to find packed within Codename S.T.E.A.M. But at its juicy center, you'll find an engaging take on the turn-based strategy genre that plays out as a third-person shooter. It's easily compared to games like Valkyria Chronicles, but considering I never played a game in that series, it's something all around fresh for me. For nearly every single level, you'll pick your own squad of 4 characters, each with their own unique stats, weapons, and special abilities. And from there, you'll face off against an opposing team of aliens, with each side getting turns to move, find cover, and litter each other with bombs and bullets. What's exceptional is that you can't just run into the battlefield with guns a-blazing, as you will most certainly get mowed down as the aliens pack a deadly punch. It's all about using your Steam reserve for each teammate skillfully to maximize the damage dealt to the enemy while also protecting yourself as best as possible. And to add another layer of strategy, you can make the wise decision to not use all your Steam in a single turn, and thus when an enemy appears in your line of sight, you'll perform an Overwatch attack, which not only allows you to deal damage during their turn, but also potentially stun them. There's a good assortment of intricate details, so the gameplay has a measure of depth, yet it isn't so complex for those with little to no experience. It's surely entertaining, and positioning your character just right on the battlefield so you can blast away at their glowing weak spots is oh so satisfying. There's also a lot of mix and matching that can be done with the game's assortment of playable characters, as the gold and gears that you collect in each stage are used to unlock more weapons and steam tanks for your team to equip. So much experimentation can be done to find your ideal team to work with your strategies. One interesting mechanic that Codename S.T.E.A.M brings to the table is that there is no map to tell you where the enemies, hazards, or power-ups are lurking on the battlefield. It's all about mapping out each and every stage in your own mind, and I like the sense of discovery that it offers. It's cleverly done, as you are allowed to walk around and backtrack as much as you like within the confines of your Steam reserve, so you can get a better layout of the map and collect goodies. And speaking of maps, I really appreciated the level designs that Intelligent Systems cooked up, as they are quite varied. The assortment of stages have different levels to them, branching paths, plenty of blind twists and turns that have you on the edge of your seat, and several different enemy types that you'll come to be familiar with throughout the game's story. Now, here is where the game is causing quite the stir for some players, because as enjoyable as it is when you're on the offensive, when it gets to be the enemy's turn, the loading times can be painfully long. Patience is a must, but I can actually see why Intelligent Systems went with the decision to make you watch every enemy move around. The biggest reason being is the lack of an in-game map, as one of your only references on where the enemies are moving to is when it gets to be their turn. I'm not sweeping the problem under the rug though, because it can be downright tedious, especially when the aliens take their sweet old time to maneuver around. As a compromise, they should have at the very least allowed you to change the speed at which the enemy turns play out, just like how you're allowed to fast forward battles in Fire Emblem Awakening. I see absolutely no reason why they couldn't add such a feature into the game, and I'm sure it would have enhanced some people's appreciation for the title. Not everyone has the time to sit around for minutes on end just watching the game play out on its own without any player input, so it's totally understandable. But to break up the gameplay, Codename S.T.E.A.M will also throw in a few rock'em sock'em robot type stages where you pilot a giant Abe Lincoln mech. The concept is interesting and it's cool the first time you try it since it plays differently from the core experience, but that's where the fun ends. They are extremely boring, repetitive, easy, and require next to no skill to beat. All you have to do is walk side to side while holding down the trigger and kablamo, you won. And don't even get me started on the game's final boss. Let's just say it's anticlimactic. Anywho, when Codename S.T.E.A.M was first announced and leading up to its release, I was not impressed by the graphical art style that Intelligent Systems went with. It's a throwback to the Silver Age of comics, and the funny part is, I'm actually a comic book reader, but something just didn't gel with me. Nevertheless, once I got my mittens on the game and played it for hours up close and personal, I started to warm up to the visuals, and oddly enough, I'm now a fan. The cel-shaded comic book style is really well done, and it gives everything a very bold outline that looks great on the Nintendo 3DS. Along with that, I love the way the cinematic cutscenes play out, as it's also done in the comic book way, with still frames, lettering, and comic panels. The enemy designs on the other hand, which are inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, are varied, but I do wish there was more detail added to these creatures, as most are just blotches of one color, and they can get to feel samey. Outside of the visuals, the music that the game brings forth feels right at home as it meshes together well with the steampunk-inspired world that is represented. There's a bigger focus on more aggressive rock and metal arrangements. They might not be something memorable where you'd want to listen to them over and over again outside of playing the game, but they get the job done, and it keeps the battles alive. Also, the game's theme song that plays at the title screen is super cheeseball, but it's stupidly awesome. It reminds me of Captain America, so it's an A+ in my book. Now, when it comes to its lasting appeal, Codename S.T.E.A.M just doesn't really have enough going for it that will really draw you back in to play more once you complete it the first go-around. There is definitely stuff to do, such as collecting all the gears in every stage and unlocking all the pieces of equipment, but motivation is certainly lacking. There is online multiplayer, which interestingly enough is well put together with 3 different modes. I like that the game encourages you to play multiplayer while you continue your trek through all 16 missions in single player, because all the gold you earn in online matches gets carried over. But there is one gaping problem. You'll find next to 0 people online to showcase your uber elite skills to, so you'll be waiting a good 5 minutes just to find a single opponent. Yeah, it's no bueno. But overall, Codename S.T.E.A.M is a hit and miss game, with some really great moments that makes it worth considering, while other parts just bring the experience down. The core gameplay of turn-based strategy mixed with a third-person shooter is a ton of fun, and I love sneaking up on opponents and finding the right perspective to give them a deadly kiss on their weak spots. On the other hand, the mech stages are abysmal, the long enemy turns will turn some people away, and the online multiplayer is not much of a saving grace. But even so, I'm glad I took the time to experience something new, and if they make a sequel, hopefully it adds even more of what makes this game great while fixing its issues. So in all, the GamingPixelShow.com thinks Codename S.T.E.A.M is a good game, and that will bring us to the end of this review. And if you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up and add your favorites and all that good stuff, and you can stay tuned for more videos in the future. But I will talk to you later in the next video, guys. Bye!